This topic is this is a big topic. There's no way I could do a whole class on Latin American hip hop, like a whole course. But obviously we don't have time for that. And normally I do a whole week on this, 2 sessions. And on the way our calendar worked out, I'm only able to fit in 1. So there's no way I'm going to get to cover all the stuff that I want to cover. We're sort of touching the surface, and I'm trying to cover, I can't even say I'm covering like the essential stuff that I think you need to know, because even that, I can't do that in 1 lecture. So I'm giving a very brief overview, and I'm hoping that this will spark your interest enough to learn a little bit more about it. And the reason, as I hope you'll see, that the reason I want you to know about this is not for the topical reason, topic versus concept, not for the topical reason of, yeah, you should all know about Latin American hip hop, it's so dope. It is. It is. And somewhere in America and outside of America, certainly in Latin America, people are teaching a course on Latin American hip hop with exactly that thesis. This shit is dope. You should know about it. You should be into it. I agree with that, but I'm on some next level shit, as you guys know if you've hung around that long. So, in addition to the fact that, yeah, it's dope in and of itself, it's a cool topic, it's good music, you can't understand what America is if you don't understand the relationship to Latin America. And the continental, you can't understand the nation-state notion of the United States properly without understanding how it's related to the continental concept of America. And when I say you can't, should be, maybe you're already subconsciously, there's a part of you, even when I say this, you say, oh yeah, obviously. I say you can't understand that. That may seem self-evident to you. I may say that and you're like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. I don't need to know anything more than just that to understand that. But there's another voice in your head. If you haven't heard it explicitly now, you're going to hear it as soon as I say this. Even though you will agree, or even if, I should say if, maybe there's a couple people who didn't agree with the statement I just made, but even if you do agree with the statement I just made, like that sounds reasonable, the fact is that the vast majority of United States citizens who believe that they have a reasonable understanding of what the United States is do not understand it in relation to Latin America, or do not understand it in relation to the concept, the continental concept of America or the Americas. And furthermore, if you said that to them, they wouldn't even understand what you were saying. If you said, well, I just learned it in this class, you gotta understand, da 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 da. And they'll be like, what do you mean? And you say, well, you understand what the United States is, right? They'll say, yeah, I'm American, of course I understand. Or even if they're not American, they'll say, yeah, of course I understand. So I'm here, aren't I? Obviously I know what it is, I came here. I didn't come here for no reason. I'm not here for no reason. You say, but do you understand it in relation to the Americas or continental America? And they'll say, sure I do. You say, really? Your concept of the U.S., like you understand how these things are co-constructed? All those kind of, you'd be like, I mean, it's obvious. Like it's in the Americas. Like that's what they'll say. Yes, I mean it's North America, so it's in the Americas. So obviously, so here's what I mean by they won't even understand the claim that you're making. Now, some of you might not even understand the claim that I'm making. So then it's like you're not hearing a distinction in any of the things I just said. Hopefully that's not the case. You lasted this long in the class. But what I want to illustrate just with this last point is how hard it is even to communicate why it's a question, even when you understand it yourself. Even when you come to know that this is true. Identity, every identity is a disidentity. All these markers of privilege, this sense that whatever country you're in is God's country, is constructed by, or whatever group that you are a member of, what is the co-construct of the disidentity that it's a part of. Is it revolutionary? Is it reactionary? Is it oppressive? What's that relation like? Okay, so I want to talk, not even a lecture, I'm going to wave my hands. I'm going to throw up a few slides that bring to our discussion some aspects of Latin American history and politics. Really, I'm not even sure I'm doing that. I'm just talking about a sketch of the colonial history so that we understand how that's similar, how it's different to other places like Africa, which we talk about in this class, and the US. And then the intersection of race and class and I would love to go through all the countries in Latin America, but barring that, I have to pick 3. And because I don't have time for that, I'm going to pick one. All of this applies to if you're learning this thing that I'm telling you conceptually, then you can transpose it and you can find it in all these different contexts. So I'm hoping that I'm giving you the intellectual tools to do that, not just the examples to be like, yo, that's a cool example. Okay. And I think I got to skip, like a lot of this was also, in your reading, there was also the comparison and contrast with South Africa. Is that right? Did you guys read what reading did you do for this week? Mark Perry, yeah. So he's comparing Cuba, right? Hip-hop and the way that blackness is used as an identity marker to challenge hegemonic ideas, hegemonic constructions of what it means to be Cuban, right? So we've discussed in the first half of this course how challenges to what it means to be American are made through and by hip-hop. And so the reading that you did by Mark Perry was showing that his argument was that this is true, of course, all over the world, and the 2 case examples that he has is South Africa and Cuba, and the different ways notions of blackness in both these countries, which are drastically different because of their drastically different histories. What race means. The origins of the modern concept of race are the same. It's coloniality and slavery. But the histories of colonialism and slavery in these countries, you might say couldn't be more different. South Africa and Cuba. South Africa and the US, there's a lot of similarities, as maybe I mentioned in a previous class. Of course, there's differences. But if you're going to pick a country on the African continent that is most similar to the US, it's a good argument can be made, that Mandela and Obama, kind of the same phenomena. That might be a little too high level for. If you don't know, that may be. Let me not say high level. That may be a little bit too advanced, given what you guys already know and what I haven't led up to. But here's all I want to say about South Africa, because I told you I'm going to focus primarily on Cuba. Is that Mandela? You hear the word Mandela. The name Mandela reverberates all over the world. It's a global icon. just like Martin Luther King. But what I want to tell you is that for me, what resonates for me when I hear Mandela is I think about Winnie, not Nelson. And Winnie is pretty much erased from official history. This is a quote from Winnie Mandela. So I don't have time to go into all the debates around this. There's lots of reasons why you might even just, I'm showing you this, believing that for most of you, this is the first time you're hearing of Nelson Mandela being talked about in any kind of critical way whatsoever, let alone as harsh as this. It may be shocking for you. I did warn you that at the beginning of this class. I don't know if you remember, way back in September. But yeah, I've been, in these debates, people go on about these debates, and it's not people who are on opposite sides of politics who will have these debates. People who are like, are very much in line with me, will argue with me about this, and will be saying, look, she was too harsh on Nelson and all this kind of stuff. So there's good arguments on both sides. But in order for you to decide what you think about it, you need to know the arguments. And I'm showing you this. It may even be irresponsible of me in a sense because I haven't given you this whole history and led up to this. I'm under these constraints. But the reason why I'm showing it to you is so that you know this exists, because this shit is hidden. These debates, you can't decide what side you're on in a debate if the truth is hidden from you. If these debates are not debates because you try to mention this in a classroom or in some kind of public forum, and people do whatever they can to make you not be heard, to be as dismissive as possible. Oh, she was crazy. Yeah, but didn't you know she was involved in da-da-da-da? Didn't you know that black boy who was shot by the cops, he was in a gang? What do you mean by gang? Like, he had friends. Like, they hang out together. Like, it's in this, all four of them in the lobby every day. You can see it on the screen. But pictures don't lie. You know what I'm saying? So, that's why I showed that to you. Okay. What is Latin America? Some people have taken some classes already. Might have answers to this. I'll run through it because there's tons of slides. We can have the thing. Okay, so first way you define it is simple, right? Latin America, 21, 22 sometimes. Who you want to count, who you don't want to count. Looks, there's some. Anybody know why those countries are gray right there? South America. How come those ones aren't colored in? Anybody know what countries those are? Yes or no? Nobody knows? So South America is the continent, right? This continent down here, and then you notice right at the top of the South American continent, and then you got Central America is green in there, leading right up to what's that line? The green and the gray at the top. What country is that dividing? Huh? No, I'm talking, I changed the question now. You were too slow on that one. Now I'm at the top. What country is that? Do I have, that's a smart question. I can't do it. Yeah, I do, but I don't. Doesn't matter. I'm just asking if you guys understand this map here. So, like, you got the U.S. at the top. You got Central America, right? Okay, Mexico. Where's Mexico? Is it in? It's right there. This is my question. Is Mexico in South America or North America or Central America? Notice how there's different answers. That's all I wanted you to notice. I could tell you the answer, but it doesn't matter. I just need you to know that prior to me asking you this, you probably thought everybody knows. And then when I ask you in a classroom, you're like, why is he asking? It must be a trick question. And then you hear people say, oh, well, it's something like this. And then I'm even confusing the computer. You're just like, bro, what are you even talking about? What's going on here? You trying to sabotage? Pretty much. What is the deal? Okay. No, I think it's a computer. Oh, you thought, yeah. Okay, so let's close it and reconnect it. It's freaking out.
Because we were sharing too much information.
It's too much. It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's too much. All right.
Run it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Yeah,
Let's use my other laptop.
Okay.
Not the Surface here.
How nice of them.
Oh yeah, you do that. Yeah. Oh, cool. All right, you find it there. Plus it open, get to the slide. Digital. Just here, I got it. Let me get the. Can you grab the keyboard?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well done. Let me get the keyboard. I got it. Unmute. Okay. Here, you handle that, I handle this.
Yeah.
Go over there. Unmute it. Is it on mute?
No.
So you don't know why it's not showing up? Okay. Let us resume. All right, so the point that I really want to convey here, again, if I had, if this was a discussion-based course, we would go through more like, okay, what do you think? Why do you give this answer? Why are there contestation? We don't have time for that. So, what's the bottom line? This is what you write down. Simple. Is that geographic borders, geographic concepts, geographic identities. One of the things that makes them so powerful is the notion that they have something to do with the physical world, that they are marked out by the physical world. We tend to think that way when we're not, when we're asked a specific question, then we're like, oh yeah, of course, it's political. The border is, defined by whatever. But that's not how we tend to think about it. That's not how in everybody's discourse on a regular basis that you're familiar with, we think of these things as just these natural things, these natural distinctions. But it's not, it's not a mountain range in between every country. These things are, for the vast majority of cases, almost every border, maybe not every border, I shouldn't say maybe, that's why I equivocate so much. Not every border, but almost every nation-state border that exists in the world today exists because of colonialism and war. That's how those lines were drawn and redrawn and drawn again. It's not people came together and they're like, well, we all speak the same language. Why don't we start a country? It's not like the French nation or any other nation is talking about, well, it's because we have this great culture, this great language, this whatever. Goes back all these centuries. These are lies. That's cultural essentialism, which I've taught you about. The term that I've talked to you about, biological essentialism and cultural essentialism in the first half of the course. Now here I'm adding a word. It's real simple. You can see the pattern. If you understand conceptually, then this is real simple. If you don't follow me conceptually, then it's a whole brand new thing. Here's the new term. Geographic essentialism. What is geographic essentialism? Conceptually, it's just the exact same thing, parallel to biological essentialism or cultural essentialism. But how can it be the same thing? You're not talking about skin color. Well, we were never talking about skin color in the first place. That was just one of the fucking lies you've been fed. Right? We're not talking about actual geological distinctions, but that's how it's presented to us. Presented to us as fundamental cultural distinctions, which is why we can't get along. The West and the rest. The East versus the West. Those Muslims are fundamentally violent. Don't you know the Quran? It's by the sword. That's what it is. It's fundamentally different. It's clash of civilizations. It's not about politics anymore. That was the old world, USSR versus the US. Now, you can't even reason with these people. Right? That's precisely, if you understand it conceptually, you understand that's racism. If you don't understand it conceptually, you say Islamophobia, it's not racism because, it doesn't have to do with color. Because that's the topic. That's the topical understanding you've been taught to associate these things with, rather than understanding them conceptually. Understanding that these things are a guise for disguising political, material, colonial, oppressive interests and contestations. So, former European colonies that speak a Latin language, Portuguese, Spanish, French. We tend to think of, again, when we're talking, we're thinking very loosely. We have our heuristics. We have our theorems, our cliches. We think about Latin America as just Spanish, right? For the most, this is a good stereotype. Works in almost all the countries, but not all of them. So it's not coterminous with South America. An important thing to understand. One of the biggest Latin American countries is right here in North America. Mexico. But yet often, when people talk about North America, they mean Canada and the US. They can't even imagine Mexico. Mexico's down there. But actually, it's in North America. It's not all the way in South America. You got to go through all the way through Central America before you even get to South America. Yet people imagine it's in South America. But it is in Latin America, as you pointed out. So, it's politics. It's all politics. That's the bottom line. Follow the money. Not coterminous with South America, created through colonialism versus indigenous societies. All kinds of great indigenous societies you could study. Real cool. The Age of Discovery. You guys know any rhymes about Christopher Columbus? Oh, did I misspeak? I'm quoting Peter Tosh. I don't know if you guys know Peter Tosh. One of my uncles, metaphorically speaking. The Age of Discovery, right? So there's all the great European explorers. There's also great Caribbean philosophers like Burning Spear. You guys all know the great Caribbean philosopher Bob Marley. Not the only one. Might be surprised to know there's a whole bunch of them. So Burning Spear has a song called Christopher Columbus is a damn blasted liar. Maybe you notice Bob Marley, Redemption Song. Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. It's talking about all the great discoverers. Marco Polo. So there's this Age of Discovery, right? The high adventure. Portuguese and Spanish empires are the primary empires. French comes later. So check this out. Have I shown this before? So weird. I have this weird deja vu. Check this out. This is pretty crazy. To just watch these. These are just. I think I got these maps straight off of Wikipedia. But when we think of colonialism, so we are in a country whose legacy is the former colony of Great Britain. So when we think of colonialism, we think of the British Empire, if this is the tradition in which we learned it. Where's your paper?
I don't know. What's your paper?
I'm delivering my paper.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Are we come on now.
Yeah.
There's no camera. Maybe there is a
If there
camera.
were,
Are you guys recording this? Because apparently he wants to do a comedy routine right now.
Yeah.
I got you.
All right.
But you got me.
Yeah.
All right. Let us proceed. Check this out. This is from Wikipedia. These graphics are pretty awesome. Because I'm showing you stuff that, here's what your president says. He's like, a lot of people don't know, which is code word for I just learned, right? So when I saw this, I was like, yo, I just learned. I learned this a few years ago. But just the visual impact. So we think of the British Empire, but it's not, take a look at what empires do you see are the biggest. In 1550, Spain is the biggest empire, by far. Now, let's advance into the future a little bit. What's the other biggest one after Spain? Who would have even guessed that? If I said, name the great big empires in history, nobody would have said Turkey in this room. Am I wrong? What? Yeah, the Ottoman Empire. You would have said Ottoman. All right, some people in the room might have said Ottoman. What? All right, let's not swerve. Check this out now. We're going to do a little jump, 204 years. Look at what happens with these Russians. Kicking some ass. Till this day, in fact.
Indeed.
Plus, they know how to make some good drinks, apparently. It's tough up there. You gotta be. Okay, so what are the two largest in this? What are the biggest changes? What would you say are the biggest changes in this 200 years? So here, Spain, how you ever here? This is what I want you to understand. Look at France and the United Kingdom. It's a joke. It's a joke. And they're like, yo, one day we're gonna be just like Spain. That's the plan. And there's guys writing about this. Like, I'm saying this as a joke. There are philosophers, writers, explorers, theoreticians in England and France who are like, yo, we're going to do this bigger and better than Spain. But they didn't do it by this time, yeah. Portugal said, no, we're going to take this. That's right. That's right. So what are the big differences here? Portugal blew the fuck up. Right? They released the bomb fucking album. Metaphorically speaking. Killed a lot of people with that shit. Genocide. Yeah. But you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Can't make an empire without genociding a whole bunch of people. I mean, if you understand these things conceptually, you transpose the concept. The great Tupac said. Russia. Okay, so let's keep going now. Look at this now. What happened here? Bam! What the fuck? Who knew that was coming? When in 1754, right, who predicted this? Russia did. Right? Russia did. All right? Oops, I slipped up. I said, what's next? Go from here. What the fuck happened to Spain? Bam! Y'all are out of here. Decimated. Remember what y'all did to the Indians? Now it's your turn, motherfucker. You're out of here. Right? Look at Great Britain, look at United Kingdom, and new on the scene. Who's the new kid on the block? Look at those. And the Netherlands. Maybe you see where this is going? Next 200 years, it's all Netherlands. Right? By year 2300. I don't know. But look at this. Oops. Here's where we go. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Look at that. 1921. All these colonies, all these colonial powers, pale in comparison. This is not showing the other ones. This is just showing you the extent of the British Empire. No other empire ever had that much territorial expanse as the British Empire. That's 1921. And then there was this small matter of the Second World War. And the Second World War was not supposed to happen. Anybody know why? Now this you guys know, right? You did American history. There were lots of all the greatest men. See what I did there? All the greatest men in the world came together after World War I. And they said, how do we make sure this shit never happens again? What did they do? The League of Nations. Created a League of Nations. You guys, how many people studied this history? Put your hands up. Like you heard this stuff, right? This is basic. If you went to school in America, or you got this, right? Now, what happened? Why did the League of Nations fail? There was a League of Nations, okay? This is all the most powerful nations in the world. Millions and millions of people died. Everybody agrees this was not just poor people that suffered. This was not just poor countries that suffered, right? It was a horrendous, catastrophic global event for Europe. And so they all got together and they're like, we create the League of Nations. League of Nations had one job. One job. It didn't have to do everything. Just don't let this shit happen again. Why did it fail? All right, everybody, let's focus. Julia? They were mean to Germany, and Adolf was not having it. Okay. There's one argument. That's different people, None of us were there. These are stories we're told. Yeah.
There was no enforcement behind the League of Nations. The U.S. proposed it, but they weren't a part of it. And there were no consequences.
U.S. Smart.
The rights of the League of Nations.
Okay.
So it just kind of fell apart.
Okay. Were you going to add some? Same thing? Other narratives? Yeah.
Similar to that, when Germany first started making aggressions, they just said, hey, can you not? And then let them keep going.
Hey, can you not? Where did they start making aggressions? I'm coming to you. Where did they start making aggressions? Huh? Rhineland. Somebody tell me what Julia's saying.
Never mind.
Aisha.
She's referring to a territory in some part of Europe where Germany made advancements. They wanted to be a colonizing
Power. A colonial power.
the British Empire was.
So they take over. Julia, I know, I wasn't trying, We just play, it's our part of the act, right? It's the show. Rest of the show. No, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Aisha. So it's all you.
On the verge of World War II, there was this huge push to prove yourself as a power, to be a colonizer, and the playing field was arguably the continent of Africa.
Arguably. Let's say it was the continent of Africa, right? Back in the day, it was Latin America. It was the Americas. It was the, control of the Americas that was setting the stage for who runs the world. Whose world is this? World's mine. Okay. That's what they all were saying. And, you guys, I'm doing cliches today. Every dog has his day, right? Or a century. Or every colonizer has his genocide. Whatever it is. So, okay, so League of Nations. Okay, so let's talk about, Aisha, were you finish your point about? Okay, so here's what I want to add. So everything's true, what you guys said. Now here's what you didn't say. Well, actually, it's very related to what you guys said. I'm adding on. We building in the cipher. So in addition, here's what happened. So you guys pointed out there wasn't, clear repercussions. Like you do this, here is what's going to happen to you. Why not? You said the U.S. proposed it, right? U.S., which was a former colony. But the other European powers who were colonizers didn't want any kind of language in there that was going to make it hard to acquire new. Oh, you see how this works out. So we don't want war against other European powers, against other colonial powers. When we say we don't want world war, is we don't want to suffer. We can cause suffering. We don't want to suffer. Okay? So, Aisha, I think it was you had said the idea was prove yourself in the, to be a European nation, to be a powerful nation, you've got to be a colonial power. These debates also, many of you know, were happening in the United States for its whole history. The United States is founded as, understands itself as an anti-colonial movement, and then right from the beginning, the debate is, oh, but what about these people? Nah, they don't count. Oh, but also we need to colonize other people as well. We can't just have these internal colonies that we're going to have a debate, pretend like we don't know they're people, when everybody knows they are. We also have to take over other parts of the world. And so these debates happened among the learned gentlemen in the United States through the whole history, some arguing we can never become a colonial power. that would be contrary to our fundamental ideals, the truths that we hold self-evident. We even wrote a whole song about it. Right? We hold these truths to be self-evident. But that's an allusion to album, allusion to text. Culture is text, you know. So other people were arguing, yeah, it's bad, colonialism is bad, but look, that's the only way you have power. The British Empire is going to come and take us over eventually if we don't also have colonies. Look at Japan. Look at Japan. If we don't take Hawaii, if we don't annex Hawaii, somebody else is going to. Right? So let's be real. The world is, the world's about colonies. These are the debates. So Mussolini, in 1935, anybody know? You guys were talking about Hitler. They were too mean to Germany, as you mentioned. What was going on with Italy in 1935? What did they do? Anybody know? Were they invaded? They did try to invade Ethiopia. Who was the emperor of Ethiopia? You guys know who he was? Haile Selassie I. Selassie. So Selassie went to, where did he go? If you follow the story that we're in, he went to the League of Nations. And he said, what did he say, guys? I'm looking at you guys who said there wasn't the enforcement ability, you know. Yeah, exactly. But more eloquently. I'm going to paraphrase as well, seeing as we're just doing paraphrases. He said, look, either you help me or your ass going to be next. That's what he said. Not with that precise intonation, but extremely eloquently. Presented the facts. You think that this only matters when it's not people of color. You think that these fascists are just coming for us in Africa. Guess what? They're coming for you next. That's what Selassie said in 1935. And you guys know what happened, right? So to the point of there wasn't a provision, sure, but there was also a decision. The decision was not to act. The decision was not to stop fascism when it appeared not to be directed at the major European powers. So what the argument is from Selassie and what the argument is from the colonial vantage, from the liminal space, where you can see both worlds. When you are on the edge, maybe you heard a song in the beginning of the semester, don't push me because I'm close to the... When you're close to the edge, you see the whole thing. You see the other side where this is all leading to, where we're getting pushed off. When you're not close to the edge, you see the people over there on the edge, and you say, yo, that sucks. Say, yeah, let me donate to a charity. Right? Yeah, you shouldn't, remember, he said, don't push him. You shouldn't push him. Right? That's what it's like when you're not on the edge. But when you're on the edge, you can see it. And that's where you understand that modernity and coloniality are one and the same phenomena. It's the modernity-coloniality complex. One is contingent on the other. The modern world, with all its privilege that it affords all of us in this room to different degrees and different intersecting ways, that privilege is not a just privilege. That privilege is not the way we are all taught to think about it, as because we worked really hard, that's why we all have the privileges we have. No, it's not. I wish it were so. I'm not saying we didn't work hard. But I'm saying the privileges that we have, we didn't get them because we worked hard. They don't exist. These privileges don't exist. That's what I want to say. They don't exist based on merit, based on equity, based on fairness, based on justice, based on the best that humanity can be. Right? It's privileges based on, some of you guys are talking about genocide. I don't know why I had to put such a damper on my metaphors, but yeah, that's what it is. Right? It's based on brutal oppression that continues today. Right? Follow the money all the way down. See what it looks like on the bottom. On the front line. We are all dealing with we all experience injustices in our lives. Some of us more serious than others. But if you follow that chain all the way down, you see that the epistemic violence that we are subjected to, the microaggressions that we're subjected to, the obnoxiousness, is all interconnected. We get benefits for not seeing the connection between people working in the mines right now, providing the raw materials for the items that we treasure. So M.A. Césaire, so these critiques that are brought up by, that I gave you the story about Selassie. M.A. Césaire is a fundamental, in African cultural studies, we study M.A. Césaire's discourse on colonialism because he so eloquently, so powerfully writes about, what's going on over there? Somebody reading something they want to read to the rest of the class? So eloquently wrote about the fact that fascism is colonialism, is the colonialism that has been rehearsed on the rest of the world, on Africa, is now being practiced on Europe. That's what fascism is, the extension of colonialism, the extension of racism to its logical end, which is totalitarianism, fascism. Whose world is this? So, and what's the colonial world about? It's about business. How is this power established? What is it all about? Is it because when we talk about imperialism, we talk about cultural imperialism, we talk about genocide, right? People getting killed. That's the consequence. What is the motivation? Is the motivation because these colonial powers, are run by psycho killers? No. They want power. What is power? Is it, we hear about, when we're talking about cultural, this is a cultural studies class. We're talking about cultural imperialism. We can talk about cultural genocide, cultural identity. But colonial knowledge is the erasure of indigenous knowledge. Why? What I'm trying to show you here is something that happens a lot. Is don't lose sight of the material reality, the material consequences, the death, the brutality, all of which has to be justified in some way. This is the intent. The intent is to gain power. Power is through economics. Hard power. There's hard power and soft power. Soft power, I ask you nicely, I give you some arguments, I fool you with my nice words. Hard power, I kill your ass. Not really, because then I can't exploit you. So I have to terrorize you. If I kill you, I can't exploit you. I have to terrorize you, so I kill people at random. And then when I'm killing people at random, you feel like you could be next, so then when I'm actually nice to you a little bit at a time, you start to feel like, yo, that's how knowledge is constructed. Colonial knowledge is constructed. Indigenous knowledge is erased. So that's why, if you follow me, when we are doing hip-hop or when we are creating anti-colonial culture, when we are creating counter-hegemonic culture, this is not trivial. This is not just because the music sounds better. It does, okay? But that's not why. It's because we are trying to live. We're trying to bring about a different kind of reality that doesn't reduce human beings to this type of shit right here. That, all those maps that I was showing you, right? Those are plantations. Those are factories where commodities are produced, where nature, plants, medicine, drugs, some good drugs right up there, I'm telling you. It all gets reduced to the medicinal qualities, right? All the value, all the cultural value, all the use value is reduced only to what? Exchange value. And when the world is treated that way, the planet is treated that way, what's next? Human beings. First, it's human beings who who are far away from you. So you're like, oh yeah, too bad for them. That shouldn't be like that. And then it's you. Or those directly around you. Drug dealing. You know where I learned this from? You know who taught me this lesson? It wasn't a book I showed you, Walter Mignolo, Modernity, Coloniality. It's KRS-One. I learned this shit from KRS-One. Drug dealer, understand historical fact. Every race got ahead from selling drugs except black. We are under attack. Here's another cold fact. In the 30s and 40s, the drug dealer wasn't black. They were Jewish, Irish, German, Polish, etc., etc. Now in 90, their lives are a lot better. They'll sell you a sweater, a pair of pants cold-hearted, but first selling drugs and killing people's how they started. Drug dealer, black and Hispanic. Stop killing one another because in the ghetto, we're all brothers. Organize economically. Understand the psychology. America is the drug monopoly. They own the block you kill your brother for. Therefore, we got the same enemy once more. I go on tour, but who do you think picks up the bill? A hard-working fireman? Chill. 80% of American business is created illegally. This is a fact. I ain't asked you to believe in me. If you're really in the drug game to win it, eventually you're going to get shot or in a clinic. Again, if you're really in the drug game to win it, invest in a prison. Therefore, you can be put in it. Everybody else did it. Now they chilling above the law while you're under the law and still killing one another. Wake up, my Hispanic brother, my African brother. America's not your mother or your father. So don't bother with right or wrong. Just check out the logic in the song. Organize, realize, become unhypnotized to the lies that they're living. See, many people have forgotten the fact that America was never ever built for blacks. So if some people are going to run and buy crack, take the money and put it back into black. It's only logic. See, KRS is going to rock it with knowledge, education for the people. To never stop it, organize, and legitimize your business. Remember, everybody else did this. It's not the narrative you're most familiar with. Y'all can snap if you're feeling. You don't have to. Whatever. But what's he talking about? Everybody did this. Plantation economies, because this is the modern world. It's based on drug dealing. It's not based on, and it's liberalism. This is actually the definition the political philosophy of liberalism. You see what's on there. I told you I'm going to give you all these slides. I'm going to upload these. I don't have time to go into it, but look at that last word on there, the bataille. The kind of slavery, the slavery that that you have in your minds, you think of like American slavery, the overly simplified way that we imagine it based on movies or whatever. Living on a plantation, no shoes, cutting sugar cane or whatever, picking cotton, no citizenship. I need to be careful when I say this because I don't want to take away from this other broader point, which is that although that version, that image, that particular manifestation of exploitation is not here to be found nearby, that doesn't mean that there isn't brutal oppression happening here just as bad as it ever was, right? I'm not saying that isn't the case. But what I am saying is even that kind of slavery that you have been told does not exist, that shit is popping right now in the Dominican Republic on these sugar batailles. That identical, brutal, let me not say identical, that's the ways that you do not imagine are still happening. That's what I want to say. I'll be careful with my words. Ways that you do not imagine that manifestation of severe commoditization of human beings is happening right now around the world. And we who have all the privilege that we have participate in economies that are part of one global economy that is part and parcel of all this stuff. And my point, of course, is not don't eat. Don't compute. Okay, this is not my point. Don't get a job. My point is don't use your privilege the way you are expected to use it. Don't use your privilege to perpetuate these systems. Find a way to do things differently. Find a way to fuck up the system. Listen carefully to my lyrics in the song University versus Me on the album that you have. And then you will understand why I am here. And a couple of you might decide that's why you're here too. I'm going to show you these slides. Haiti, by the way, is Haiti in Latin America? Yes or no? No. Yes or no? Okay, why not? We don't think of it as Latin America because we think of Latin America as Spanish. But the definition is Latin language. It is in Latin America. What? I mean, I didn't make the which is on the same island. Well, that's because those motherfuckers are not following the definition. Because black people are not allowed. That's why. Black people are not allowed. That's why. Anybody seen this painting before? Did we talk about it in class? Why do I think it? I'm losing it. I did it in a different class, that's why. My memory is telling me. Somebody had a hand up? I don't have time to go through it. It's manifest destiny. The idea that the United States must fulfill its destiny. I told you that there are these debates in the U.S. from the U.S.'s inception. When was the American Revolution? 1776. The anti-colonial revolution. It's a Tea Party. Sounds great. Tea Party. But from that point on, right? United States is founded from our perspective, a fundamental contradiction, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, right? This is a colonial structure, colonial system, and it's the most privileged members of that colonial system who what they're really saying is, don't treat us like the way we treat slaves. The way we treat people who are enslaved, it's you, the king, should not confuse us with the people that we mutually feel like brutalizing. How dare you put us in that category? That's what they mean by we hold these truths. All men are created equal. I mean, us and the king, right? The bourgeois. It's a bourgeois revolution. But then in order to maintain that, there's this whole debate about, well, how do we continue this narrative? How do we continue this story in a world that is really established where power is who controls the greatest amount of territory and has the most factories, has the most businesses. Colonies are businesses. Enslaving people is commodifying people, reducing people to denying that they have any value other than exchange value, other than the profit they can turn over. If they're costing you more than they're benefiting you, you just throw them out. Do the same thing with milk, with sugar. You got to dump it. You can't, all that extra milk that your factory produced, if it's going to cost you more to ship it, it's going to cost you more to give it away. It's not going to make you profit. You just dump it out. You don't give it to people who need it. Because the use value, it still has use value, doesn't have profit value, it has use value, but use value don't matter. Profit matters. That's when you've reduced it to a commodity. Now, what is a colony? You will read, if you do black studies, colonial studies, area studies, any of this stuff, you're going to hear racism, colonialism talked about all the time. I've said to you a whole bunch of times, colonialism, slavery, capitalism created the modern world. What you won't find written, or I haven't found written, is what I'm about to tell you right now. You will find it written in my book when it comes out. But what is the connection? Other than this hand-wavy thing. Yeah, it's all those things. This is what it is. It's that enslaving people, individuals, people, is commoditizing them. Enslaving peoples, nations, is colonialism. Commodifying peoples is colonialism. That's the connection. Cut and dry. The shit is not complicated. But it's not in any of the books. Why? Now here I've done this thing for you guys Those of you who think, you know, I've been to these classes, Professor D makes things complicated. He's using all these words, all these fancy academic words. Now making this shit real simple, okay? If you can understand commodification, if you can understand, make it rain. Got all this money, something is beeping in my ear. If you can understand, oh, it's the government being like, don't say this shit. That's not why we gave you power. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, we got a few minutes. If you can understand the way that I define commodification for you, which I did in a previous lecture, I gave you the slides. You understand that it is reducing anything that has cultural value, including human beings, to commodities, treating them only in terms of their exchange value. That is the same process by which colonies are made. That's what a colony is. A colony is a people, not a person, not random groups of people, not a whole bunch of people rounded up, but an entire society, a polity, an ethnicity, a nation, a village that is commodified. You commodify a group of people. I'm not saying you. You shouldn't. Yeah. When a group of people is commodified, that is how colonies are created. And that's why colonialism and racism are inextricable. That is why racism and colonialism are part and parcel of the same process, which is modern capitalism. All these things are spoken about together. You can take all these classes, you can watch a whole bunch of documentaries, but they're not going to break it down for you the way I just did. They're going to be talking about it in terms of, you know, all kinds of different ways. You go find it. Let's watch a video. I'll break this shit down. All right. There's all this history stuff. You can learn it all. Oh, look at this. U.S. Look at that. This is America, which Obama went to Africa. He did his famous Africa speech. He said, you know, the thing about America is we understand your struggle because we were born of anti-colonialism. America's never been about dominating people. Never been about imposing our will on anybody else, other nations. We believe in self-determination. We America. That's what Obama said in Africa. Followed by, y'all need to stop, now I'm paraphrasing. I was already paraphrasing, but now I'm paraphrasing even more. Taking more artistic license. Why don't you guys stop talking about colonialism? That shit is over. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and take responsibility for the condition that you find yourselves in. But check this out, yo. I don't know if like he had an assistant like Dan, the way I do, who's like, yo, D, did you, but wait, Obama, did you, Barack, but look, that's a lot of interventions for an anti-colonial country. Maybe you shouldn't say that. All right? This is the whole history of the United States, is interventions all over the place. I'm going to give you these slides. I can't talk about them all right now. I want to end with a little video clip. KRS-One. Whatever. Let's watch a video. End on this video. I said I was going to talk about Cuba. You guys know what movie this is from? Let's, how long is this video? Let me see. We're going to take attendance. Now play this. Where's the sound?
I saw an interesting thing happen today. A rebel was being arrested by the military police. And rather than be taken alive, he exploded a grenade he had hidden in his jacket. He killed himself, and he took the captain of the command with him. Right, Johnny?
All right, this is like 2 minutes, and then we're going to do attendance.
But it occurred to me, the soldiers are paid to fight. The rebels aren't. What does that tell you?
So this is from The Godfather. It's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Watch this. It's from The Godfather. It's Michael Corleone, yeah? Yeah. All right. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to play it. You draw the connections.
So,
Yep.
enjoy.
Happy birthday. L'chaim. I saw an interesting thing happen today. A rebel was being arrested by the military police. And rather than be taken alive, he exploded a grenade he had hidden in his jacket. He killed himself, and he took a captain of the command with him. Right, Johnny?
Those rebels, you know, they're lunatics.
Maybe so. But it occurred to me, the soldiers are paid to fight. The rebels aren't. What does that tell you? They can win. This country has had rebels for the last 50 years. It's in their blood, believe me, I know. I've been coming here since the 20s. We were running molasses out of Havana when you were a baby. The trucks owned by your father. Michael. I'd rather we talked about this when we were alone. The 2 million never got to the island. I wouldn't want it to get around that you held back the money because you had second thoughts about the rebels. Sit down.
Okay, attendance is open right now. The code is 9927.
I could only live to see it, to be there with you. Huh.
Okay, pause it.
I wouldn't give
so
for...
the point there is when he said, he's talking about this is just on the eve of the Cuban Revolution. And Michael Corleone is saying, why would we, the mob, invest in Cuba when a revolution is about to pop off? The other mob boss says, look, whatever, they've been trying, these rebels, whatever, they've been trying for a long time. They're not going to win. What Michael said is, they're willing to risk their lives and the soldiers are not. And that says to me they can win. That's what it takes to win a revolution. That's what it takes to stop people being commodified. And they won in Cuba. They had the Cuban Revolution. That's actually the point of The Godfather, which a lot of people miss. And that's what KRS-One is talking about in the lyrics I said to you. Okay, 9927 if you didn't get it. That's attendance.